Welcome to A Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids Certified Financial Planner Ron Corser. Ron Corser and Associates are planning today for the potential of tomorrow.
And welcome into the program. This is your Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids CFP Certified Financial Planner Ron Corser, president and founder of Ron Corser and Associates, helping us to navigate this crazy, confusing, complex financial world, bring it down to a common sense level, providing guidance and perspective. And Ron, we always appreciate that guidance and perspective, as well as the time that you share with us and the listeners across Grand Rapids here on WOOD each week. Thank you for being here.
Well, I appreciate being here, and good morning to everybody listening to today's program. I think we're going to have an interesting program, even though we're going to talk about something that most people think they know everything about, and that's called a 401k plan. It could also be a 403b for nonprofits and things like that. They're a little more convoluted than a lot of people understand, and there's some ways to deal with them really effectively. There's some things they do really well. And there's some things that perhaps we need to be aware of when we're navigating through the 401k, 403b world. One of the things I want to emphasize really first of all is, when people come into our office for the first time, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to schedule a time with us, give us a call at 616-301-2581 or go to our website, roncorserandassociates.com. You can plug in your questions if you have them, and I'll do my very best to answer them as quickly as we can. Or if you'd like to schedule a Zoom meeting, phone call, or an in-person meeting, give us a call, 616-301-2581. That was some shameless promoting, wasn't it? Early in the morning.
No problem. No problem. You got to get out there. I mean, that is the service that you provide. Great information here on air, but I think that if you have information, they say knowledge is power. It's the action on that knowledge that truly gives us power. You got to put it into action.
It really is. So again, please call and we'll get through this. But we're going to spend the hour on 401k plans. Why would I do that? First and foremost, when I ask folks when I meet them for the first time, tell me about your retirement plan. Most of the time I hear, well, I have a 401k and an IRA. And what I hope everybody tries to understand is a 401k and an IRA are strictly buckets where you invest money. Neither of them are a retirement plan. A retirement plan includes all of the following: an income plan, so you have all the income in retirement that you need. Have we dealt with the tax issue in your life? Have we dealt with the medical? In our firm, my wife Nancy and her team handles the Medicare, healthcare programs, long-term care, that kind of thing, open enrollment, endowment care. So it includes those things. Plus, what about legacy issues? And do you have your assets positioned in the right place? Do you need some trust work done? Now, I'm not an attorney, but I do recognize when perhaps a trust is needed and maybe when it isn't needed. But a lot of times I tell people, because I see them, they don't really have an estate plan. Because when I ask that question, they say, well, it's going to go to my will. And I'm not sure people understand all that means. So there's a lot that goes into it. And dealing with a 401k, 403b time today is strictly another important piece of the overall plan, easing on down that road into retirement. So we're going to talk about that. As always, there's a lot of information coming your way. But if those of you who are driving to church, please don't stop and take notes. You can always go to our website and tune into the rest of today's program at your convenience. For those of you at home and listening, make popcorn, even though it's only 9 o'clock in the morning, you can do that. And we'll have a good time this morning. So take it away, Peter.
Well, we do appreciate the guidance. And again, ladies and gentlemen, if you've got questions or concerns, Ron always makes his time available to those listening to the program, to his friends and neighbors across Grand Rapids. If you are taking your planning and your financial future seriously, and you would like to sit down and get a plan, not just the tools in the toolbox, but an actual plan for how to use them to better improve your outlook for your financial future. That is what the game plan for today is all about. And that is what we will be talking about, how you can get that in action and how you can get the actual plan, the course to retirement in your hands. 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, the number to call. Now, Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, but you mentioned how a lot of people think that the assets will just go to the will. That's not necessarily the most advantageous process, nor is it one that oftentimes the 401k defaults to. I mean, doesn't the beneficiary designation on the 401k actually bypass that whole process most often?
It does if there's a beneficiary. And we've actually, when we've met people for the first time, one of the things we do is we review the beneficiary strategy that they have. And on occasion, we've found that there is no beneficiary. I don't know why, but there is no beneficiary on the 401k. That can create enormous problems. So that's just one of the things that we do. But when dealing with a 401k, one of the reasons I think it's important is to understand the principle behind the 401k. There's a really great principle in financial times in the world that says to give yourself the best chance to be successful financially, always pay yourself first out of your paycheck. Always pay yourself first. Most of us, at times, because we've been pressured or whatever, we pay everybody else. We pay our bills, the electric bill, we pay taxes, we buy food, we do everything. And then at the end of the day, when we look at our check, there's not much left over to save. So one of the really basic fundamental rules of successful investors is to pay yourself first. So that means that out of your paycheck, that's what you do. I remember when we were going through this with my daughter, Jennifer, and she got a real job, and it was a good job. And I sat with her, and of course, I'm her father, so she respects me and loves me, but sometimes taking advice from dad is really a pain. But I convinced her that this 401k plan she had available to her was really important. And she ultimately bought into the idea of paying herself first. She had gone through all of her life up to that, paying everybody else first, and had financial insecurity, if you will. So we flipped that, and she started paying herself first. And I showed her how getting involved in the company's 401k plan was paying herself first. And then a light bulb went on. And then she did very, very well at that. But that's a key issue for all of us. There was a time when I first got in this business back in the 90s when I used to do with another gentleman, we were partners. We did a lot of 401k work as the salespeople who would go into companies and offer our services to them. One of the most amazing things that I found in these plans is there were people who had the ability to be in the plan as a participant who chose not to. And it basically boiled down to, when I asked them why, a couple of them, we don't trust it. I understand that. Number two, I don't make enough money to put our money away. And number three, I got other bills I got to pay, those kinds of things. And invariably, when I would sit back and just think about those folks, I thought, there's going to come a time when they're going to be 40 or 50 or 60 years old, and they're not going to have any money put away for retirement. Why would I think that? Because there's a lot of data out there that says, the average couple, this is just average now, all right? That's all it is. Retires in retirement funds, retires in America with about $60,000 of assets. People go, that can't possibly be, but my response is, it's accurate. Now that's average. So there's a lot of people above average, there's a lot of people below average. So it's important to understand that one of the best benefits of a 401k, any kind of employer sponsored plan, 403b, is that you take one of the most basic things in financial planning, the concept of paying yourself first, and you pay yourself first because that money comes right out of your check. And hopefully the employer puts a little bit in on top of that for you. So you defer, your employer adds to it, and you start to build a retirement investment bucket, so to speak, that will help carry you down the road.
Yeah, the systematic, automatic nature of the 401k is of benefit. Otherwise, I don't think it would get done. A lot of us have a habit, if we see money, if we bring money home, that money finds a way to get spent. And so this way we at least know that that job of paying ourselves first is getting accomplished. But pros and cons to everything, Ron, in that if we have it set up automatically and it's so out of sight, out of mind, a lot of times I think we're missing some of the education that we should have. We're missing some of the opportunity along the way. We're missing some of the routine maintenance that we should be doing inside of this important tool.
That's a problem. And think about it this way. Let's you take a company, let's say they have 500 employees. It's really, really, really difficult for the financial representative of that plan to sit with all 500 employees and help them. If they do sit with them, and I'm not speaking out of context here, but I've had people say, well, they were able to meet with the 401k person for a few minutes and they made some adjustments. That's not really getting good advice, but the system itself almost makes it not quite impossible, but very, very difficult for a financial person in charge of the 401k to sit with an individual and say, let's take a look at your whole financial world here and see how this 401k can be used to maximize its ultimate benefit. So it's one of the difficulties inherent with all employer-sponsored retirement plans.
Indeed. And that's some amount of liability. It's some amount of responsibility in getting to know somebody on a very personal level to make those kind of financial recommendations that perhaps the company does not have the desire to do or the time to do. But it's why I think, Ron, as individuals, we need to take that extra step and understand we need education and we need some level of professional guidance on these tools. I mean, this is the financial future that we are talking about, and retirement can be long, retirement can be expensive. This is the best tool that we have to prepare ourselves for that. So on the radio today, to the best of our ability, not on an individual level, but on the level of talking about what these accounts are and what they are not and what they can and what they don't do, we'll provide some of that education. But as your service, as you began the program talking about, Ron, you do this and extend the information that we'll talk about on an individual level. That's part of the course to retirement. And ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to take a certified financial planner up on the time and opportunity to look over those accounts with you, for you, on your behalf, and so you can get that better education, pick up the phone, give a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. For starters, Ron, one of the best advantages of that 401k, other than it's systematic and automatic, is that match that is offered. Probably never a time where we should be missing that match unless we are just trying to claw our way out of debt and get to the point of a solid foundation, I think. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. One of the things, and I'll just touch on this, when we give advice to our clients or help them review the 401k, it's not as if we had a fiduciary responsibility for that plan. But what we can do and what we do is say, here's how you're allocated. Let's take a look at how each individual position that you have, or mutual fund, let's see what's in it, how it works. So they have the critical information they need to make decisions if they choose to make a change. But when it gets down to free money, and that's really what it is, if a plan says we'll give you 3% if you hold back 6%, it's hard to earn 50% on your money. I mean, I'm not sure Bitcoin even does that on a regular basis.
Well, I don't think there's anywhere, in fact, else in the financial world where you could guarantee that kind of immediate return on our contributions as what is offered by a match on a 401k, even if it's 50 cents on the dollar, even if it's 25 cents on the dollar. I'd be hard pressed to think of any other place where if I put in $1, my balance instantly is $1.25 or $1.50 or $2. But I have always sort of taken issue with the terminology free money. Ron, I view that as part of my compensation, but I only receive it if I understand the importance of putting some skin in the game and taking the step to pay myself first.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm going to work just as hard either way. It's just a matter of, do I prioritize saving?
Yeah, I mean, and it's there. It's a piece of money that's there for the taking, as long as you do a couple of easy things. One, you have to defer. Two, you have to figure out, do you want to put it into another tax deferred account, or does your 401k plan have a Roth 401k? And that's an enormous benefit to people when they look at, what am I going to do? I'm going to defer some money. Okay, the employer is going to match some of my deferral, but the money that you put into the plan yourself, your elective deferral, is either going to go into another tax deferred account. And what's the advantage? You'll get a tax break on it. Your taxable income will be reduced. Or if you have a 401k Roth provision, it goes in there, it means you don't get a tax deduction, but you start to accumulate money on a tax deferred, tax free basis. So, excuse me. So the question of to defer or not to defer, I guess, is a good one. But I honestly have not found a really rational financial reason to not take advantage of an employer-sponsored retirement program. I seriously haven't. I know I've run into people who don't do it for any number of reasons that we talked about a little earlier in the program. But to me, at some point in time, think about this. If God lets us live long enough, we're going to get to the point we're going to be in that strange thing called retirement. And apparently we're going to need to have money in retirement. I'm not retired, so I don't know that to be true, but they tell me when you retire, you need some money in retirement.
I believe that.
I hope people understand that. So where's that going to come from? It's going to come from a pension plan or Social Security, but hopefully you've got a little bit of money stashed away somewhere else in 401ks, IRAs, and things like that. That's why the question of to defer or not to defer, it seems like it's an easy one, but it really is important to make a good, sound decision. I generally always come down on the side of defer. Put some money away for yourself down the road. You know, worst case scenario, you have an enormous problem in life financially. You can always go back and get some of that money out. Generally, you may pay a lot to take it out, but you can still get to some of it. So it's a way to just to put a little more solid ground in your beginning to create a retirement plan going forward. So a couple of things to think about. If you have a Roth, why would you do that instead of a tax deferral? Well, let me ask everybody a question out there. Here's a question I ask everybody when I meet them, and particularly when we have Roth account conversations. Going forward over the next 5 to 10 years, do you think what you pay in tax, I'm not talking about brackets, I'm talking about what you pay in tax, do you think will be about the same as it is today, 5 or 10 years from now, less or more? Most people kind of nod their head up and down and say more. And that's probably true. Our government has spent an enormous amount of money the last couple of years, and they've already told us publicly that they're going to raise taxes. So generally they say, well, we're going to raise taxes on those evil 1%ers. And my response is, you know how to tell if you're a 1%er in America? Here's a question. This, ladies and gentlemen, this will clear up any confusion you have as to whether you're a 1%er. Here's how the question is, do you have money? If you answer yes, you're a 1%er, and the chances of that money being taxed grow exponentially month by month in this current environment that we're in. So the more money you can put away on a tax deferred basis or a tax-free basis, the better off we're going to be down the road. So to defer or not to defer really has a lot to do with how comfortable you want to try to live when you get to that point in time where you can retire.
Financial advisor and Shakespeare aficionado. That is the question: to defer or not to defer on taxes. And Ron, maybe no cut and dry universal answer. It probably all is case by case, very individual, because if we are making a very high income and can defer our way down to a lower bracket and then control our expenses so that we can forecast that into retirement, we will actually need substantially less income. Perhaps it makes sense to continue to defer even if taxes are going up.
If you really believe you're going to need less income in retirement 20 years from now or 10 years from now than you do today, then I guess that makes sense. There's another issue to think about. I run into this every once in a while in trying to help couples navigate this retirement process. Here's an example. Let's say both of them are working. One employer does not give a match, another employer does give a match. Sometimes the best advice I can give is maximize what you put into your spouse's account if the employer's matching it.
Ah,
Make sure you fully fund that one, if you will.
sure.
So because you're not getting anything done with the other one. And the other one you can just defer as you want, or depending on how much income you have as a couple, you could actually create an IRA for yourself, which might give you different investment options. But in those situations where one member of the household has an account that does have a match and the other one doesn't, I would say make sure you fund. You get all of that extra company money coming to the person. And then you can figure out whether to put money, if you're the one that doesn't have a match, you can put it in a 401k, you can put it in an IRA or even a Roth IRA. So that's a little bit of a different strategy. I don't see that a lot, but I see it every once in a while. And chances are when we run into financial instability in the country, a lot of times companies will make changes in their match. Sometimes, when things get bad, and it did last year, some companies just stopped the match for a while because they didn't know if they were going to be in business. So those are kinds of things you can keep in the back of your mind. Fund the one that's getting the match and just deal with the other one as need to.
Well, again, I think that this is important to discuss because there could be some strategies to optimize our outcome that we are missing or overlooking. Some easy things like that, where we've got two different 401ks in the household. If one offers a match or a better match, put an emphasis on that one. Ron, how about the question of saving at my job through my employer sponsored plan versus saving my own money for retirement in my IRAs or Roth IRAs? Do you have an order of operation or guidance for us there?
Not really. It just depends on what you want to do. There are
Okay.
income limitations for saving with a tax deductible IRA as an individual or a couple. You don't have those income limitations with a 401k. So number one, it's a little easier to defer into a 401k. Number two, depending on, let's say you're getting the full match from your employer and you're putting away, let's say it's 6%, but you want to put more away. Well, you have an option. You can put more into the 401k plan, or depending on how your family income is, sometimes it's a good idea to create your own tax deductible IRA, if you can do that, or create a Roth IRA for yourself. It depends on how you want to save, what your tax situation is, and there's no one right or wrong answer for this. It really gets down to what somebody wants to accomplish, and did they work with an advisor who will do kind of a back of the envelope tax calculation for them so that they can see the numbers. All the financial decisions we make in our lifetime have a tax consequence. They all do. So before you make it, doesn't it make sense to work with an advisor who at least will help you understand what the tax consequence might be? It could be a good consequence, it could be a bad consequence. The word consequence always says, oh my goodness, but there's always something happens when you make a financial decision. So ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like somebody to help you with those financial decisions, give us a call at Ron Corson Associates, 616-301-2581. 616-301-2581. We'll be more than happy to talk with you on the phone, in an internet Zoom meeting of some kind, or person to person. Our job is to help people and to educate people, because I absolutely believe in my own situation and everybody else's. If you give me enough good information and some really critical information and facts, I can probably make a pretty good decision. And I believe that of everybody that we meet. If we can give you the really rock bottom critical facts that you need, you can make really great financial decisions for yourself. So if you want help with getting those critical data points together so you can make a good decision, give us a call, 616-301-2581. We will help you. That's what we do.
The improved decisions that you could make with your money when you've got the assistance, the guidance of an experienced, qualified professional. That fiduciary responsibility is something that is a benefit as well. Somebody who's got your best interest at heart when making recommendations, a certified financial planner. Pick up the phone, give Ron Corser a call. 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Now, Ron, there are opportunities that we have along the way to maximize the areas where we have control, minimize the areas that we don't have control, and identifying a few of those with the 401k is necessary as well.
Yeah, it is. And one of the things that comes into play, there's some, I call them birthday markers, but they're age markers. And one of the things that folks need to understand and just kind of file it away. Let's say you're 55 years or older, and your employer has just come to you and said, "We love you a lot, but we got to make some changes." You're 55. That means all the tax deferred money you have, if you just put it into an IRA, roll that 401k over, and you start taking money out of it, unless you do certain kinds of things, you're going to be hit not only with taxes, but you're going to pay a 10% pre-withdrawal penalty. Now, there are some ways to get around that. I won't talk about them now, but there are. So one of the things I encourage people to understand is if you're 55 or older, between 55 and 59 and a half, and you've had what's called a separation from service, you're no longer employed by that company, and you have a 401k there. Here's some really great advice. And it comes from a financial advisor with a fiduciary responsibility. Keep some or all that money in that old 401k plan. Why? Because after 55, you can, if you're at separation from service, you can take money out of a 401k without paying that 10% penalty. You have to leave it in the 401k, but you can do that. And that's an important planning point. Because as a fiduciary, it would be an absolutely wrong decision if you were 55 and you got let go. Your own company, Peter, you just let yourself go. You fired yourself. Mm-hmm. I know that sounds strange, doesn't it? Yeah.
Happens.
You probably
I no longer need my services.
Yeah, you probably deserved it. So my advice would be you should really leave it there. Now, maybe you don't have to leave it all there, but it's up to you. Now, so that you can access that money until you find another job.
That's counter to what we hear almost across the board. It's almost seems like universal in the financial world. You leave a company, take your 401k with you. You leave a company, take your 401k with you. So what you're talking about here, Ron, is a little bit of an exception to that rule.
It is an exception. And that rule assumes that you can't find another job. And some folks have had a tough time finding another job.
Right.
So it's what you do. And if you're leaving a company and you already have another job, you can roll your 401k over into that new 401k plan. They have one. You can roll it into your IRA. It's not that big a deal, but it really depends on how secure you are in your new job, if you're getting one, and what your financial situation is. So it's more than just, yeah, do this, no, don't do that, kind of an examination or analysis. Let us help you work through the numbers, the tax numbers, whatever you need to do. Now, I'm not a CPA, but I'm a certified financial planner, so I've got some experience with tax planning and things like that. So give us a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. We can help you work through and sort through these decisions, which sometimes can seem small, but can make an incredibly big difference in the success you have going forward. So give us a call, 616-301-2581. We will help you in every possible way we can.
Ron Corser and Associates, your resource, ladies and gentlemen, a certified financial planner willing to help guide you. We'll talk a whole lot more about your 401ks, the strategies, the options, how you can have as much control over that as possible, what it means for your retirement when we come back. And Ron's got a list of 50 common mistakes with the 401k. We'll run through a few of those as well. But in the meantime, if you've got questions, if you'd like to take him up on the offer to take a look at the 401k or get the course to retirement plan put together, pick up the phone, give a call, 616-301-2581. Quick break. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the program. This is your Course to Retirement. We are joined with Grand Rapids Certified Financial Planner, Ron Courser. Today, we are talking about the most common tool Americans utilize to make their way to retirement, and then many of us counting on it through retirement as well. It is our company-sponsored plan, the 401k, the 403b, the 457. There are a few different titles to it, but it is that retirement plan that's offered to you on site at your employer. And we're getting some guidance, we're getting some instruction, the do's, the don'ts, the pros and cons today with Ron Courser, Certified Financial Planner. And if you've got questions about your 401k, pick up the phone, give him a call, 616-301-2581. Taking a look at that is just part of the service that he provides, just part of the Course to Retirement plan that he'll help you put together. And again, that number, 616-301-2581. Ron, I guess that is the most important point here, is that the 401k or that employer-sponsored plan, it's a great tool, but it is not a plan. It does not constitute a true plan for retirement, just one of the tools to help us construct that plan.
It's basically an investment vehicle. That's all it is, where you can do it on a tax-deferred basis, tax-free, whatever you're doing. And you got a bunch of different things you can invest in, and hopefully it works. I'm going to focus on some things on 401ks. We're going to do a little nitpicking. So all of you that haven't picked enough nits so far, we're going to give you a chance to do more of it. But I'm going to touch on these because they're somewhat out of the ordinary. You don't see them all the time. But if you make a mistake on them, it can be really painful, really painful. So one of the things I'm going to talk about is if you're in a company-sponsored plan, you work for a publicly traded company, you probably have the ability to buy company stock in your 401k plan, either through a systematic stock purchase, or you can just do it on your own through the plan. What's the good news about it? You understand the company better than anybody else. So if you think there's a future in a company, it's a good way to perhaps, make some money on that company going forward. Here's another thing to consider though. If you have company stock, a publicly traded company, in your 401k, and you either are going through a separation of service, or you're just retiring, whatever you want to do, be careful on how you treat that company stock. What do I mean by that? I've seen cases where advisors have said, well, let's just roll over your 401k into an IRA. We'll just liquidate everything you have. And somebody had company stock, for example. They had 1,000 shares of a company stock that they paid $10 for over time. But now the stock is valued at $50 a share. So if you just roll that over into an IRA, you've lost all that growth and you've lost a really great tax benefit. And here's how that tax benefit works, ladies and gentlemen. If you have company stock and it's highly appreciated in your 401k, you can do what I call a two-step. Number one, you can remove just that company stock from your 401k. It's called net unrealized appreciation, NUA. And you can put that company stock into a taxable investment account. And the only taxable portion of that decision you make to move that company stock out of the 401k and into the IRA, you will just pay tax this year on what the cost is. So in this example, 1,000 shares, you paid $10 a share from, now they're worth 50. That means you're going to pull all 50,000 out, put it in a taxable account. You're going to pay tax, just tax, on the 10,000, but you're going to have this highly appreciated asset in your investment account. Now, when you go to sell that asset, you can do that anytime. The gain is treated as a capital gain, which can make an enormous difference in how you're taxed on this account. So if those of you who have company stock and you want to hold on to that stock and it's highly appreciated, there is a way, process, you can remove it from your 401k and put it into another account for yourself with a minimum of taxation. Then once you do that, you can roll over the entire remaining part of your 401k into an IRA, so there's no tax involved in that one. So I don't see that often, but every once in a while I do. And one time I ran into a new client where that had happened to, and he was not given this kind of information. So he just sold out the company stock. He would have preferred to keep it. And he lost out on the real benefit. He really did. So
Wow.
if you have something like that going on in your 401k, give us a call at 616-301-2581. Ron Corson Associates. We can help you with these kinds of decisions. Sometimes it doesn't make any sense. Sometimes you don't want to keep the company stock. I get that. But there's always an option for you. And it's important that you have options when trying to figure out, what am I going to do with my retirement money?
Typically,
Give us a call. We can help you with those options. 616-301-2581.
not too complicated of a decision or a process, but every once in a while you run into a situation where there are complications, and certainly it's not a process that you want to make any missteps with, because that can result in unintended taxes, unintended penalties. Unintended consequences are not what we want to have with our money, and especially not that nest egg that we plan on helping us to maintain and survive off of into and throughout retirement. That's why this topic, this discussion of your employer-sponsored plan, deserves the time and attention that we are giving it today, and then some individual time and attention as well. That's why Ron Corser gives the number, makes the offer, makes the opportunity available to you to have a discussion with a CFP certified financial planner about your situation, and makes the offer to get that course to retirement plan put together. Now, this is not 1,000 pages of financial jargon. This is not the prospectus of a mutual fund that you don't understand what's going on. The course to retirement is simple, easy to understand, concise, consolidated language and steps, action items that you can take in order to help you achieve and accomplish your important financial goals, maximize the areas that you have control over, minimize the areas that you don't. That's what the course to retirement plan is all about. If you'd like to get that in your hands, pick up the phone, give that number a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. You can also visit online, roncorser.com, roncorser.com. If you're watching this edition of the program, this podcast, around the video, there's places where you can click to like, subscribe, share. You can ring the bell so that you're notified of future episodes. But below in the description, there should be links to some of the resources, and of course, the opportunity for you to get on track, get a time to speak with Ron or the team there, Ron Corser and Associates, and get your course to retirement plan put together. So again, 616-301-2581. Ron, when we talk about the 401k, we've got to understand that most of the options within it involve some element of risk, and we hope to be rewarded for that risk over time. But there's going to be ups and downs along the way. That can be to our advantage, though. I believe as we are making the contributions, that's a good thing. Once we stop making those contributions, maybe it's a little bit of a different story, and we've got to reevaluate and reassess that risk.
Yeah, one of the things that happens with 401ks or any kind of systematic investment program is you get to buy securities on what's called a dollar cost averaging. So let's say you're going to put a fixed amount into your 401k of $500 a month. That $500 a month goes in and buys whatever it is you're invested in on an equalized basis. And let's say the market corrects and all of your shares go down 10%. Well, that $500 a month going into your account is simply going to buy more shares of what you've invested in. So you own more shares. And the idea is that when the market bounces back, you make a little more money on the shares you bought at a lower price. So over time, this idea that you can save systematically makes sense because of this dollar cost averaging idea. You're not just putting in everything at one time and waiting 40 years to retire. You're doing it over a period of time. That also gives you the opportunity to rebalance. Sometimes people never rebalance their 401k. That's not really a good basic strategy. What is rebalancing? That just says, you come up with a set plan to invest in, say, 5 or 6 different funds. And maybe 1 or 2 of them have a great year and they just go through the moon. Well, it's very difficult to sell winners. I get that. That's one of our human frailties. We hate to sell a winner because we always assume it's going to go up and keep going up. But a more rational approach is to say, look, I wanted to have 20% of my assets in these 2 mutual funds. They now had such a great year, they're 40%. And we know that year over year, returns rarely exceed the previous year. There's an up and down in it. So why not take some of that money off the table, so to speak, and rebalance it, put it into something that maybe didn't do as well or is still doing okay, but it just hasn't had the run up that this other one does. It's kind of like going into a casino, and when's the best time to leave, Peter? When you have money or when you don't have money?
Yeah, when you've made a little bit of money, right?
Yeah,
That's the
it
best
is.
time to leave.
You kind of walk out of the casino even if you made a buck. The idea of rebalancing the portfolio is similar to that. You're kind of walking out of the 401k casino and you're taking some money off the table and putting it in something else in that 401k plan.
Yep.
So
Now,
a lot of times,
Ron,
you
those
see-
casinos are not built by people who take that advice and who walk out when they have made a profit.
No. You know, it's a fundamental fact of financial planning. If you stay long enough in a casino, you're going to go broke. I've been told, this is a side note, I've been told that the best way to make money at casinos is to play blackjack. Somebody told me once you have a 47% chance of winning, but that still means the house has a 53% chance of winning.
Yeah.
And over a long period of time, it's not going to end well for you. So ladies and gentlemen, when you have a winner in a 401k plan, after a certain period of time, kind of pull back, take some money off the table, so to speak, and reinvest it in some other investment options within your plan. Over a long period of time, it probably gives you one of the better strategies for maximizing what's going on in that 401k or 403b plan.
Well, again, I think that, Ron, these are the opportunities that, because of the way that it's set up, systematic, automatic, out of sight, out of mind, done before we see our money, all of which are beneficial on one hand, we may miss those opportunities to rebalance on the other hand. We may overlook the necessity of doing that routine maintenance and therefore maybe miss out on some opportunities. And specifically, I can think of, like, over the last 10 years, if somebody has not taken the time to go in and rebalance that 401k, gone in to really look at it, they could easily be very out of alignment on how much risk they are taking. It's like if we never balance and align our tires, the outside of it can get very worn. The inside may not be. The one tire could be wearing to a much greater extent than the other. And the same in our 401k. We could be out of balance, out of alignment, and taking far more risk than we had originally intended. And time's gone by, so perhaps we should be adjusting and taking less risk as we go anyway.
I think the idea of always taking less risk is a pretty good one. That doesn't mean you're not taking risk. It just kind of says, I'm not going to take crazy risk. I'm going to be rational about what I do. Because one of the things that we see a lot, and it's because of the thin education people get in 401ks or 403bs, they really don't have a clear understanding of what they own. You know, they may be in a target dated fund and have everything there. And the idea between a lot of mutual fund companies have these for their 401ks and 403bs. Target dated fund just says, you know, if you're going to retire in 9 years, you put all your money in a 2030 target dated fund. And the idea is that as this time comes closer and closer, as you get closer and closer to 2030, the fund itself flips more from stock into bonds. That sounds like a pretty good idea. Except what's going on in the bond market today? Interest rates are going up. Bonds are having a very difficult time staying above water. The other thing, so if you have a big exposure to bonds, particularly when the market's going up, it may not be to your advantage to have that. The other part is, it's interesting when we do reviews for folks that come into our office and they have a 2025 or 2035 fund, we'll compare some funds from different companies. And it's amazing how the differences are. Same year, 2035, 2040, whatever, and every company looks at it a little differently. We even get to some where then they're a 2025 fund, and some of these funds still have 80% of their money in the stock market, and we're only, 3 years away, 3.5 years away from retirement?
Yep.
So it's important to understand what you own and the risk involved in it. That's one of the things we can help people with. As I said earlier in the program, We're not fiduciaries responsible for the plan, but what we can do is help somebody understand what they're invested in. What's the potential risk? How does it work? You know, a lot of times I get this sometimes with a certain large fund family. They'll have 5 of the same family funds and they say they're diversified. And yet when we do an analysis of what they hold, we find out that, for example, Microsoft is in 4 out of the 5 funds. Tesla is in 3 out of the 5 funds. Google is in 4 out of the 5 funds. Just because you have different kinds of mutual funds, it's really hard to figure out if you're really diversified unless somebody can help you dig into that and see what you really do own. What do these different mutual funds, what companies do they really own? And generally, large fund families, it's pretty hard to diversify if you don't know what's held in these funds. So that's one of the ways we can also be of help to people who have 401ks. We can at least help you get the information you need to make a rational, critical decision on what you own, why you own it, and what you think it's supposed to do going forward.
But watch duplication and overlap. And then if you got multiple 401ks at different places, there could be even further duplication and overlap there. So again, just something to pay attention to be mindful to, not just to set it and forget that it's there and just keep sending your money away and not knowing what's going on with it. It's something to pay attention to and something that we all deserve and need some guidance on. And Ron Courser's here to help provide that, ladies and gentlemen, whether or not today is the day that you're planning on retiring and you need an advisor on your side, or if you're still saving your way toward that retirement, you need some guidance on those employer sponsored plans and each and every investment and how it fits into the larger plan that you have for building towards your financial future. Pick up the phone, give Ron a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Ron, a few other things I know that probably deserve time and attention, maybe their own show. In fact, I think 60 Minutes did a show on this several years back, but the fees inside of 401ks, they're not negligible. They are there. They are significant. We need to be aware of them. In many cases, they are not readily disclosed and transparent. Loans that a lot of people take from our 401ks, that's setting that eventual retirement date back. We should try to avoid that at all costs. The 401k is not your piggy bank there. But also, Ron, as we are looking to make that eventual transition to retirement, the 401k may have been a good tool to help us get to that point. Probably not the best tool to help us through retirement, not necessarily a dependable source of income like the pension once was.
Generally, that's a pretty good statement. Really, a 401k is not a pension plan. I know that by law now, 401ks have to give you some approximation of how much lifetime income you can take. And generally, you'll see it that says, at age 65, you should be able to get this kind of money out of this thing forever. But they make some real interesting assumptions. They never assume that the market goes down. They always assume a regular interest rate, a constant interest rate, 6 or 7% or whatever they're doing. They never assume that you take a little more money out early in retirement and a little less. So it's not like a pension plan. It's just a best guesstimate kind of a situation that they give you. Now, if you've got a large enough savings in a 401k plan and you got a pension and Social Security, and the pension and Social Security basically give you your number. And we've talked about that number on this program a lot. What is that number? That's the amount of money you need coming in every month into your checkbook to pay all your bills and to keep your lifestyle. It's how much income in retirement you need every month coming in. So sometimes people, we've seen them, they have a really great pension. They've got Social Security. They don't have debt. Their basic income needs are met just with those 2 items. They don't have to be as concerned, although I've always cautioned them to be. They don't have to be as concerned, and some people aren't, with the amount of risk they're taking or how much they can take out of that 401k plan because they have other sources of income that are helping them. Not everybody's in that situation. I wish everybody had a pension. When my mom and dad were working at General Motors, they had a pension, it was a good one, Social Security, and GM paid their health care. I never once heard them in retirement say, oh man, I hope we have enough money. They always had enough. I mean, they lived modestly. We had a 900 square foot house, took them 30 years to pay it off. We had a party when the mortgage was paid off. Uh, my grandma loved everybody and my mom loved everybody, and it was cool. But that's not the case today. The world has changed around us. The 401k retirement plan is not a good source of permanent income simply because there's risk involved. And folks have to understand that. So the important part or place that a 401k comes into play is it could be one of the biggest financial chunks of money you have, one of the biggest buckets when it comes to creating the retirement income plan. That's where the 401k really becomes meaningful. That's where you start to do some serious thinking about how you want to allocate that money that you worked so hard for. Because what's going to happen? You're going to pay taxes on every dollar that's in there.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to have a tax idea of what's going to happen. Number two, there's always going to be risk there. So you need to have a plan that kind of addresses that. Number three, you may not like the investment strategies in a 401k plan. You may want something else. So that's sometimes where we can be a great help to give you some options to consider that perhaps line up a little better with who you are as an investor and what you need to do in terms of creating a retirement plan. So give us a call. If any of these things have kind of touched a nerve with you, ladies and gentlemen, give us a call. We can help you through this. 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Or you can just go onto our website, roncourser.com, plug in a question. We'll get to you as fast as we can. We will help you with this. It can be a little convoluted and complicated, but we have a habit of making things a little simpler.
Ron also has 50 common mistakes made with a 401k plan: not participating, not capturing the match if it's available, not starting as soon as you can or as soon as you're eligible, not maximizing the available match, not utilizing the Roth component if available, something that we didn't even get time to touch on today, not reviewing your statements or rebalancing on an ongoing basis, leaving old plans behind. There's a number, 50 different common mistakes made with the 401k plans that Ron will run through that checklist with you, or probably could just provide that to you to think about on your own. Make sure you're not making any mistakes. But Ron, at your firm, at Ron Courser and Associates, you've served Grand Rapids savers and investors, helping them make more informed decisions with their money. And I know one of the big things, the 401k is an important tool, but not the plan. You help to bring it all together as part of the Course 2 retirement plan there at Ron Courser and Associates, helping people know when they can retire, how much they need to retire, if they're already there, how much income they can generate from their retirement portfolio, how much they have left over, how to maximize available sources of income, minimize those taxes, all of those things, part of that Course 2 retirement plan.
Yeah, we do that. And there's a simple reason we try to help everybody with that. We want to make sure that no matter what happens going forward, you can keep your lifestyle. That is so important, to keep your lifestyle. No matter what happens, I want to keep the lifestyle. So that's why we do what we do and try to be as thorough as we can possibly be, because we want everybody to keep their lifestyle. I don't want anybody going backwards. And in our firm, we meet regularly. Nolan, my other partner, and my wife Nancy and I. And one of the big questions that we always ask ourselves in this is, how are we going to get people through the next 10 years? Why do we ask that question? It's just my opinion, ladies and gentlemen. The next 10 years are going to be quite an adventure. I'm one of those guys that think we ultimately, as a country, get through some of this adventure that we're already in. But our big concern is, how do we make sure we get everybody through the next 10 years so that they keep their retirement lifestyle? It doesn't get impacted. They can still do the things that they dreamed about doing. They can still spoil grandchildren and not worry if they have a healthcare issue, not worry if taxes go up. That's part of the planning process. We assume taxes are going to go up. We assume healthcare costs are going to go up. We make some of those assumptions so that the plan we build can withstand whatever comes. There's a parable that says there were two men, and they built a house. One built it upon sand. It was a great house. Another built it upon a rock. And when the storms came, the one built on sand was washed away, but the one who built his house on a rock, and I know there's some other biblical issues involved there, but there's also financial issues. When you build your financial plan on certainty as much as possible, you have a much better opportunity to survive and prosper in whatever's going to come along. It's not just going into the bunker. It's how are we going to prosper to take advantage of some of the things that's going on. So again, we want to try to get everybody that we know through the next 10 years to maintain your lifestyle, to keep everything in check. Give us a call if that's important to you. We can help you. 616-301-2581. 616-301-2581, or go to roncourser.com. Put in your questions, schedule a time with us. We'll meet you in person, on the phone, through a Zoom meeting, whatever fits your schedule, and we'll help you.
Always a pleasure every time we get the opportunity to visit with Ron, and I know he's looking forward to hearing from you, helping you in any way he can. Pick up the phone, give a call, visit the website, just be in touch. Get that guidance that you need for your financial planning and your future from a certified financial planner. Get your course to retirement, the actual plan in your hands. 616-301-2581. We'll talk to you next time on Your Course to Retirement.
Tune in to Ron Courser's full radio program, A Course to Retirement, Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. on WOOD, and visit roncourser.com for many valuable resources, including other great episodes of Your Course to Retirement.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor.
Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group is solely an indication that the financial advisor has attended training provided by Ed Slott and Company, passed biannual examinations on material covered at conferences and in webinars, and met other membership requirements, and does not constitute an endorsement of any kind. Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group members pay a fee for the educational programs that allow them to be included in the Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group. Membership does not guarantee investment success. Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.
Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.